So welcome everybody. You can say hello through the chat box. You know, before you came on, we were discussing about this new way of having to either teach or be in training. And I am definitely one for traditional teaching. I love contact. I love to see the people I'm talking to, you know, so this is a learning curve for me as well, like it is for every one of us. But, you know, let me know you're there, you know, just go in the chat box and say, hello, good morning. You know, I normally would say to people, you look gorgeous or you look handsome, but I can't see you, but I'm assuming that you're not lying down on your bed. You're not, you know, in your jammies. I want to believe that you dressed up for this because this is serious business. And saying that, welcome to the webinar, use of Google Classroom. My name is Ayo Owairu, and I am a trainer at Teach to Endure. Welcome. The reason, I'll go quickly into ground rules, you know, for today. Please, if you do have questions, as much as possible, I would advise that you put it in the question and answer box so we're not asking questions, you know, when it's getting too late. So if you have questions, I would say put it in the chat box. This is a webinar, so I don't want to believe that you can unmute yourself, but for any reason, if your gadget goes unmuted or you're going to influence what we're doing here, please ensure that where you are is quiet. And if you're not in a quiet place, ensure that, you know, you keep every form of noise out of here. We have a good lineup for you today. We're breaking this into 3 sessions. And basically what we want to talk about today is we're assuming, we know that there will be some of you on board that have started using some virtual learning platforms. Some of you have started using them. Probably you're on board to get a few more tips and, you know, more direction, which is fine, which is great. And then for some people, probably you've never, you know, used a VPL. What I'm going to say to you today is we have just an hour and we have just about 30 minutes for question and answers. So get a paper and pen ready. What you do when you go for free webinars is try and look for the key language, the people are, you know, when they're speaking, you want to pick up key concepts that you can go and do some homework on your own. You will not be able to get everything today. These guys here have been doing what they've been doing for years. So they're sort of compressing everything they know into 15 minutes because, you know, if we have 4 speakers, we're still expecting a last speaker, then, you know, everybody's sort of getting 15 minutes to do what they have to do. So have a pen and paper ready for your questions. I would say that if for any reason you're interested in knowing more when we're done, drop your emails as well. We can still have further classes. Whether it's going to be free, I don't know, but we can still have further classes and you can still ask questions. Okay, the fact that you're a subscriber also means you get tips from us. So we will be sending the notes from this webinar to all our subscribers. Can I encourage you not to unsubscribe? We will not come after you every week, but we definitely come back to you with a lot of freebies. We definitely come back to you with a lot of tips. Now, if you're here as well and you have a friend that you feel can benefit from this, it's still not too late. Get them to register and come on board. So as an organization, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? I have worked with teachers, even though I've been in leadership and administration for so many years, I've been privileged to work with teachers for the better part of my life. And I have firsthand experience of knowing the challenges we face and how sometimes change is not something we take very well. And so part of why we're doing this as an organization is our own way of giving back, our own way of making the new normal for most of us. Especially when something is new, it is going to require change. And the season we're in and the season we're going into is going to require change. And when you hear the word change, it automatically means you have to be ready to adapt. There has to be new things that you must be willing to adapt to. You must be willing to learn. Thank God you're here. So you are ready to adapt and you are willing to learn. You must also commit. Now, this is where it is key. You must also commit to the process. We're just starting. We're all playing, you know, tic-tac. We're not exactly sure, but everybody, you know, we're taking it a step at a time. So I want to encourage you this morning that from this moment, there's a process in place. Commit to that process. And the reason why it's important you commit is there's going to be challenges ahead of us. Sometimes there's going to be brain block. You're like, oh God, I don't think I can take anything in anymore. Sometimes the rate of change can be frustrating, but commit to the process. It is very important. When there's change as well, there's a price to pay. That's part of what you're doing now. We should be in front of our TVs or probably out or something. It's a Saturday afternoon. Ordinarily, we should be out having fun, right, Yemi? But we're here. That's part of the prize. Now we're going to have to attend classes. We're going to have to go to webinars. Remember, you must have a willingness to learn. The sacrifices, and that's the price we're going to have to pay. A lot of learning, a lot of sacrifice. Sacrifice for the children you're teaching, sacrifice for the schools you're working at, because remember that we are all in this together. And it is when we all work together that we're able to bridge the gap as much as possible, because there is a gap already. I know this is global, so I don't know who is tuning in from where, but in some parts of the world, I am proudly Nigerian. In my country, I know that there's already a gap as compared to in the UK, where school is still going on, even though it is online. So part of it is the price we are all going to have to pay as educators is that we're willing to bridge that gap for the sake of our children, for the sake of posterity. We're willing to, we don't want that learning gap to be so wide, because you know what? Those children are still coming back to us in the classroom. We're still going to have to deal with these children. So we have a price to pay. And for every price, there's always a price, guys. This is just me encouraging you before we start. For every price you pay, don't let anybody fool you. There's always a price. So that is a PRICE and a PIRIZE. For every child you're going to invest in. I'm hoping that there are teachers on here who even live in rural areas, and you're willing to just bring those children around you and teach them online because you've learned how to, do this, okay? Commitment, change from you is going to require increased capacity. It's going to require that you collaborate more. It's going to require your courage in terms of, I don't know what is going on, but you know what? I know that I can do this. No matter how new the normal is going to be, I can do this, okay? It's going to require creativity. A lot of creativity on our parts as teachers. We cannot do online teaching like class teaching. Some of us just like the sound of our voices. We just go on. And that's some of the things we're going to discuss today. We have to become more creative, definitely more creative, okay? And character, I believe that we're all going to have to build character over this time, but not to take too much time because it is already 12:13. What we have in place, like I said, is how to set up. If you've never used this, so you want to listen to the next speaker, is Mr. Raphael Thomas, a great guy. I work with him, very patient. I wish you could have met him during a normal class. He can answer one question 20 times. I've never seen a human being like that. But unfortunately, on this platform, he might not be able to see you, and you might need to listen carefully to what he has to say. So he's going to talk about setting up Google Classroom, both from the perspective of the teacher and school owners. I want to believe that there's school owners on board as well. Welcome if you're a school owner. Know that from that angle as well, we can make everything work together for good. Welcome if you're here. And if your teachers are not here, invite your teachers to come. And like I said before this webinar is over, we might even be able to come together as school owners and talk about the way forward. So I'm going to hand over to Mr. Raphael. His name is Mr. Raphael Thomas. He will take us through setting up of the Google Classroom. Thank you, Mr. Raphael.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Good day, everyone. Once again, I welcome you to the webinar. I trust it's going to be a fantastic time. You're going to learn one or two things, and you can apply to learning and teaching. Okay, not to waste time. I have like, say 15 minutes of my time, so I intend utilizing that optimally. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Okay, I have a slide that I'll be showing to you. Okay, so this is the Google Classroom training. You're welcome once again. Um, to begin with, I came across something just less than a week ago. I came across this, and I think it's important that I talk about it. I want to assure you, technology about the fact that one day replace teachers. Was to say that's not going to happen. Also, one other thing that I cannot see you. Technology is not going to replace. Make use of technology. Teach utilizing technology in the right way.
I knew it. Okay, that's part of technology and what we're going to be going through with the use of Zoom. So this is what I'm going to do until Raphael comes back. I'm going to start discussing with my next speaker, Mrs. Odetunde. I believe if you came for our webinar on post-COVID fallout, you would have met her. She's HOD of history in her school. She's taught in so many places. She's taught in Asia. I love the fact that you're a global teacher. Taught in Asia, taught in the UK, you're Nigerian, so you sort of have wealth of experience there, don't you?
Well, I do, yes.
About that.
Okay,
so
he's back. Okay, so we'll let Mr. Thomas go on. We were just going to start discussing because you were not here, but if you're ready, please go on.
Okay, I'm so sorry, guys. Internet access, and apologies for that. So I'm back. So I will just continue from where I stopped. Okay. I was speaking about the fact that technology is not going to replace teachers, okay, but one thing that is important that you know is that teachers who make use of technology smartly, they are going to replace teachers who are not, okay? So it's important that we take what we are doing today and the after learning, we take it as serious as possible. Okay, so I'm just going to go briefly into a few things that we highlight today. Okay, first is we'll look at what LMS is, what is Google Classroom, and some of the benefits that you stand to gain if you utilize Google Classroom. So the focus today is on Google Classroom, so I'm just going to limit what I have to say to that. Okay, all right, when we talk about LMS, I'm sure most of us here should have heard that abbreviation LMS, okay? It stands for Learning Management System, okay? And LMS basically is a software, all right? A software that encompasses everything about learning in terms of documentation, tracking, reporting, automation, delivery of learning outcomes to students, okay? It's a way of taking the classroom, taking learning out of the classroom to a software system. Basically, that's what the software is. So it encompasses e-learning, encompasses courses, basically everything that has to do with teaching and learning. It's embedded into a learning management system. Okay, so as you may rightly have guessed, Google Classroom is a learning management system, all right? So it's a learning management system. In fact, it's a free LMS developed by Google, okay? Basically, Google Classroom started some 6 years ago, and as we speak, we have about between 40 to 100 million users, and these users, majority of them are educators like you, okay? They're educators like you. So the big question is, are you among the 40 to 100 million users of Google Classroom? Okay, if you're not, it should get you thinking. You should be worried about that anyway, because Google has made this tool available free of charge to the entire world. Okay, all right. So quickly, why should I make use of Google Classroom? What are some of the benefits of making use of Google Classroom? A whole lot. I mean, a whole lot of benefits can be derived from making use of Google Classroom. I'll just highlight a few of them because of time. Okay, you can see some of them on my screen. Ease of disseminating information and assignment to students. Okay, you can also, through Google Classroom, you can hold your students accountable for work that you're giving out to them. Okay, so you know when a student has turned in their work, you know when a student hasn't turned in their work and all of that. So it allows easy accountability of your students. Okay, and other benefits includes the fact that with Google Classroom, you can integrate some other or most of Google's other software. Examples are the Google Drive and the G Suite. I'm going to talk about the G Suite briefly later on. Okay, so you can interface some other Google you already use alongside with the Google Classroom. It makes everything just seamless for you. Okay. Also, the ability for you to be able to communicate with your students. If your student can give a feedback to you, can give feedback after assignment and classwork and all of that. Just make Google Classroom just so easy for you. So also, Google Classroom allows your students to communicate and collaborate with one another. Okay, so in 21st century teaching, there's a need for collaboration and communication among learners, and Google Classroom just makes that easy for you. Okay, all right, but one of the benefits of Google Classroom is the ease of use. Okay, you don't have to be a techie guy. You don't have to have these advanced tech skills in order to use Google Classroom. It's pretty intuitive and easy to use. If you can use Instagram, if you can use Twitter, if you can use Facebook, you can use Google Classroom. Okay, so let's not see it as one of the things is that people get afraid of the use of technology because they think it's beyond them. They think they may not be able to comprehend the details of, but Google Classroom is quite easy to use. I can show you about that. So another benefit of Google Classroom is that you can give segmented or differentiated assignments to students. We have different learning styles. We have different kinds of learners in our classroom. So there are some that do well with videos. There are some that does very well with other forms of learning, other styles of learning. So Google Classroom can allow you to give differentiated assignment to this class of learners in your class. Okay, so you'll be able to reach out to every student that you have. All right, so I want to read this quote. It's from an educator like you. He says that what is great about Google Classroom is that I can give my student an assignment on Google Classroom and they can access it immediately. He said, I can also create template for them to automatically create a copy for the students, and I get a copy of it too. I can see what they are doing in real time. I can also make comments and corrections as they type. He says, with Google Classroom, I can also give my student a quiz, and I can set to autocorrect, even preset words or boundaries to look for. Creating and adding students to the Google Classroom is very easy. It is nice to share websites, document files, videos, pictures, whatever. Okay, this is a comment from an educator who has extensive experience in using Google Classroom. Okay, so it just makes your life easy as a teacher, as an educator. It just simply makes your life easy. Okay, so another thing that makes Google so easy for you is that it comes with a mobile app. All right, so you can accessing Google Classroom from the web platform using classroom.google.com. You can also download the app on your mobile phone. Your learners, your students can equally download the app on their mobile phone. So the app is available on iOS platform. It's also available on the Google Play Store platform. All right, so let me just take a break and go into how do I set up Google Classroom? How do I start using Google Classroom? Okay, to speak on this, I also need us to understand something, that Google Classroom is actually embedded in a collection of applications that is called G Suite for Education. All right. So before setting up Google Classroom for your usage, it's important that you set up the G Suite for Education for your school. All right, for your school. All right, the G Suite for Education it's what I will refer to as Google's way of contributing to education globally. All right, so it's just a collection of cloud-based tools. When I say cloud-based tools, I'm talking about software solutions that are available irrespective of your location, irrespective of your day or time. These solutions are just available to you on the web into the G Suite for Education platform. All right, so among other things, so when you set up G Suite, you get Google Classroom, you get Gmail, you get Google Drive, you get Google Calendar, you get Google Doc, you get Google Sheet. You even get a Zoom-like application that we are using called Google Meet. Okay, all of this will help you to integrate into your Google Classroom. So with Google Meet, you can equally have a live classroom embedded into your Google Classroom. Or let me put it this way: you can embed a video, or rather a live class, into the Google Classroom application using the Google Meet. So, but that's only going to work out. That's only going to be possible if you are subscribed to the G Suite for Education. So, if we have school owners here on this webinar, you may want to consider going for the whole package, okay, which is the G Suite for Education. If you are an educator here, you may want to also talk to your employers to start considering setting up G Suite for Education, because it just makes the entire process seamless for you as a school or even as an educator, okay? All right, so as I said earlier, the G Suite, the Google Classroom is meant to be used with a domain and a G Suite account. I'm not going to go into how to set up G Suite right now because it involves a whole lot of technical jargons. Okay, by the time I start talking about DNS, just going to knock you off your feet. Okay, but this is what we are going to do. We are going to help as many school owners that are present right here who desire to set up G Suite for Education for their school. Okay, at Stitch to Endure, we are going to be we are going to do that for you. Okay, so if you are interested, you are a school owner, you are interested in setting up, remember what I said earlier, that you can't utilize Google Classroom completely outside of G Suite for Education. Okay, that's why it's important you set up G Suite for Education. Okay, if you want to utilize Google Classroom the way it was designed, you must have a G Suite account. Okay, so at Teach to Endure, we can do that for you. We can help you to set up the G Suite for Education account. So just drop your contact, drop your mail in the text box, in the chat box, and we'll contact you after the webinar. Okay, but if you're an educator here, you want your school to also have the G Suite for account set up, you can equally contact us, and then we'll take it up from here. Okay, we'll take it up from here. All right, so let me highlight some of the benefits you get if you set up the whole package. Okay, so but before I go further, there is a back door to using Google Classroom. that is outside of the G Suite for Education backdoor. If you look at my screen here, okay, let me take you away a little bit away from what I'm sharing now and share something else with you. Okay, I'm going to share something else on screen now. Okay, so what you're looking at basically what do I need to set up Google Classroom? All you need as an educator is a Gmail account. Do you have an email account with Google? If your answer is yes, then you have all it takes, that is required to start using Google Classroom. All right, it's as simple as that. All right, so I'm logged in to the Google Classroom. How did I get here? Just classroom.google.com takes you right here. All right. But I also noted earlier, if you have the mobile app, you can equally download the mobile app, and that will also link you up to the classroom. Okay, so although I don't want to intrude to our next panelist session, but I just want to show you guys something. Okay, I want to attempt to create a class. Okay, so I just click on this plus sign, and then it says join class, create class. I click on create a class. Okay, so you have this pop-up that comes up and says, using Classroom at a school with students. It said, if so, your school must sign up for a free G Suite for Education account before you can use Classroom. So I just want to point this out to you. So it's important that if you are going to use G Suite if you're going to use Google Classroom, I'm re-emphasizing this, okay, you want to utilize everything that Google has prepared. Google has been supporting education for like 15, 20 years. Google has been supporting education with several tools. Okay, so if you want to utilize all of this, you need to sign up for a G Suite for Education account. Okay, all right, so you can drop your message in the chat box, and then we'll take it up from there at Teach to NG. We assist your school in setting up the G Suite for Education account. Okay, so let me go back to what I was saying earlier. Okay, so there are a whole lot of benefits that you stand to derive if you set up a G Suite for Education account. All right, I've mentioned some of these tools before. One of the benefits is that you have all of the collaborative tools that Google supplies. What I'm talking about is you have access to Google Drive. Google Drive gives you a cloud-based storage access. So you have access to store all your files in the cloud. Those files are accessible to you any day, anytime. Those files are protected from physical hazards that may result in probably having your files saved in your flash drive or saved in an external hard drive. So you have all of those tools. You have the Google Drive, you have the Google Doc, you have the Google Meet, which is meant for live meetings, live classes. You have Google Doc. Google Doc is what you call Microsoft Word in the cloud. Let's put it that way. So you also have that to yourself. It also allows you to synchronize email. Okay. I think because of my time, I will just leave that. But basically, you have access to so many other different tools beside the Google Classroom app. You also have a whole lot of other apps given to you free of charge. Okay, I don't think I've said that G Suite for Education is actually free. Yeah, we like free things. I like free things as well. Okay, it's actually free. All right. Okay, but the setup process may require one or two things, which you may have to pay one or two fees in order to do the complete setup. All right. So, benefit of G Suite. You also have access to manage all your devices. You have access to manage your security settings if you are using the G Suite for Education. If you're a school that is looking forward to, okay, I'm going to give devices to all my students, or you already have your school, you have devices given out to your student, or you plan to do that, okay, G Suite for Education is just what you need, all right? It's just what you need. With that, you'll be able to manage the devices for every student, what goes into that device. You can even lock them out if you want from their device and all of that, all from one account, okay? And also, you have email addresses for every student in your school. You have email addresses for every educator in your school. So you have student A having an email that looks like studenta@yourschool.com. You have your teachers with email addresses that looks like
I might assume Mr. Raphael is frozen. He looks like he is. Hello, Mrs. Olayeye. We've got a fourth panelist on with us. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Welcome. So sorry about the mix-up, but it's good to have you here.
Thank you.
The first panelist is still speaking, but it looks like it's got cut off. He's in Nigeria, so it's got cut off. So, but I think more or less Mr. Raphael had sort of finished. Maybe when it comes back, when it comes to Q&A time, he might be able to round up his session. So, participants, this is Rauli Olayeye. She's our fourth, Olayeye. She's our fourth panelist, and she's going to be helping us with, Q&A in terms of, did I do a good job? How, did my students learn from me? How do I really interact with them at the end of the day? But before she comes on, Mrs. Odetunde is going to help us as well. Now, if you notice from what Mr. Raphael did, you would see that it's against the law for him to take you through, because I saw Yemi going, I was laughing like, is he going to do it? No, he's not going to do it. Is he just going to show them the back door for the whole world? No. So that's why, like we said, we're assuming some of you, your schools already have the G Suite. If you don't, go speak to your the school head or the school owner. It is free so that you guys can use it properly. But for those that already have it, or for when you get it, how to use is what we're about to go into. So, like I said, Mrs. Odetunde is a global teacher. Asia, she's Nigerian, she's in the UK, so she's been using the system for a while, and she's a very good friend of mine, a very passionate teacher. I saw online one of our students going after and said, oh, Miss, they call them Miss, oh, Miss, thank you so much for being who you are. I learned, and it was such a touching note from a student. And, I say to people that I don't know how, if you're a typical Nigerian teacher, when you think about teaching in the UK, you're like, oh, am I going to do it, So for her to get that feedback, I was so proud of her, and I thought that was really great. So I'm hoping that while you're doing your session, some of those values you carry as a teacher will seep through, as you teach us how we can create classes using Google.
Okay, hi again. Good afternoon all. Thank you very much for having me. So obviously, Mr. Thomas has gone through a lot of the things that I actually thought I was going to have to say. So he's actually cut my work short, which I like to a certain extent. So I'm going to go straight into how you actually create a Google class. So I'm going to just share a couple of things with you quickly. So without going further, Mr. Thomas has actually sort of helped me here, so I'm not going to actually do much. He did explain to you about the virtual teaching learning environment and what it is, and he did so very, very eloquently. I really enjoyed it. And he also told us that, about learning management systems. So I'm just going to actually go through this quickly and quickly go to, I think, where I can fill in the gap. So we now know what it is. And he did explain to some certain extent why it is necessary, especially from a school owner point of view, and also from probably a practitioner, teacher perspective. And it's true, he gave us some statistics about there's so many people in the world now using VLEs, and obviously because Google Chrome is relatively, I think, free for any educational establishment or training establishment. There are a lot of people on this, and if you're not on the bandwagon, I think you better get on it. I wouldn't want to say that you're losing out, but I think you should get on it fast. So what I'll be talking about is, from the teacher's perspective, what are the benefits? Trying not to sort of repeat what Mr. Thomas said. So one of the advantages from my perspective as a teacher is it's flexible. So you can actually be on the way to some other event. I remember the other day I saw some students in the Sunday school, after they had done their Sunday school assignment, and the Sunday school teacher said, okay, you can go over there, and if you have anything you want to do in terms of your school homework, you go about it. And this is why I said it's flexible. Access, if you've got your internet access, is good, it's free. In terms of time saving, you would have set up everything, so everything saves time. You don't have to sit down in the classroom waiting for students to come in and all that, do register, whatever. It's just that it saves time. It's cost effective because obviously if you're going to use Google Class, it is relatively free. Now, one good thing about this is students love this. It's quite engaging, and it is popular with students. In fact, since the onset of COVID-19, the use of VLEs has actually propelled us forward 5 years, which means we've had a forward wind here. So the use of VLEs have become more popular because obviously since March the 23rd, which I think this is a global date, a lot of students have had to sort of learn from home. You can reach a larger audience. For example, look at us here. I mean, in a way, we're doing the same thing. We're speaking from different parts of the world, and you could even do this also with the Google Class, because your students might have been able to escape, and maybe they're abroad, and they're sort of stuck in different parts of the world, and they can't come back. But still, you can actually still reach them. So, and the setup, when I actually show you how to set up Google Class, you will see that it's quite an effective system. However, I'm not going to actually go and say there are no cons or disadvantages. So some of the disadvantages of Google Class or VLAs are this: it can be impersonal, and obviously it erodes social skills because students are not actually interacting just in front of a laptop. We hope that COVID-19 is not going to continue for too long, and students will, get back in school. But on the flip side, if we have this situation for too long, there will be, social skills will be eroded. Technical failure, as we could see, NEPA, and I think we've also demonstrated here on this webinar here, where technical failure could be an issue. Also, another thing is, from a teacher's perspective, you do not have control over the learning environment or atmosphere. Like in a traditional classroom, you could actually control what's going on, behavior management, you can use your behavior management skills. However, with VLEs and Google Class, you are not in control with what's happening with your students at the point of access. Obviously, virtual classrooms requires computers and internet access, and let's not kid ourselves. There are some places in the world where not all students could actually have this. And then, like Mr. Thomas did say earlier, there might be, or some people might think there is the risk to the traditional teaching method, and also the risk of that rapport between the teacher and the students fading. So these are the advantages and disadvantages, but if you look at it, the advantages definitely outweigh the disadvantages, and the disadvantages are manageable depending on your different contexts. So if you're a school owner, and like he said, you've already kind of thought about having your system set up so you could run this, obviously you would have considered all the ideas, NEPA and everything else. It is very important that your students also would have access to the internet and a computer. So from here, what's my opinion? Well, my opinion about this is what I call flip learning. or flipped learning is not my term, but it's something that is quite up there now in pedagogy. And that is basically a balanced approach. Use both. VLEs and the use of Google Class and other LMSs for education are being used as we speak now. The only difference now is because of COVID-19, the process has become a little bit more intense and it's been moved forward, probably maybe 5 years. So the intensity in which this is going to be used is going to be phenomenal. So it's really important that I think all teachers get themselves familiar with how to actually set up a class and also use one. So moving on. You can set up a simple to quite sophisticated system, but like I said, Mr. Thomas has gone through all that because he's an IT specialist and I'm looking at it from the perspective of a teacher. But there are a couple of things that need to be done. You need to get your school into the Google Suite. You need all students to actually have a free school mail account, and then we can go from there. So that's what I'm going to do now. So what does it look like? Please bear with me. I'm going to try to actually move on to a Google Class setting. Okay. Let's see what we have here. Gonna have this. Can you see what I'm sharing?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. All right. So I'm assuming, okay, that we all understand for us to access Google Class, you need to have a Google account, a Google email. So once you have that, then you have all the apps here. You would have this Google Apps here. Once you click into it, it will show you so many apps.
No, we're still seeing the slides. We're not seeing.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
So you want to share the other screen. Probably you're still sharing your slides. So you want to change screens and share the other one.
Sorry about that. Where are we? Are we there now?
Yes, we can see.
Thank you.
Now. Okay.
Okay. So if you're familiar with Google, you would see this Google Apps symbol here. You need to click on that. When you click on that, don't be faced if you don't immediately see Google Class icon. It could be on your second page. And so I'm just going to scroll down and here we go. This is it here. You click on that. And I'll apologize ahead if the system is a bit slow here. It's my daughter's laptop.
That's okay.
What's happening here?
We all borrow.
Okay, let's see what's happening here. Okay. Okay, all right. Try another account. Let's see, can you see any existing classes? No. Okay, so I'm going to try to move this out of the way. See if there's, okay. If there's anyone that I have set up earlier here. I do have. Maybe I should have set this all up before, but I thought it would all work automatically. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so this is one that I set up earlier. Me, please. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So this is one I set up earlier. So how do you set up? Once you go into Google Class, you would see something like this. I think what you need to think about, there are two things. You could either join or you could create. And to do that, you click on this, the plus sign. In this situation, we want to create a class. and not join. I will explain about joining later. Now, Mr. Thomas has told you all about this. You have to actually do this. I've got this permission, so I would click that and I will be able to continue. Okay, so I have already created one, but I'll just explain or give you another demonstration. So when you have this, you create your class, you give your class a class name. It could be a name exactly like your class in school. So for example, you could call it year 10G or something of the sort. Section could be what section of the school. So I would just call this humanities. Subject, I would call it probably history. And I'll just give us an imaginary room. I'll call the room A101. Oh, sorry, 101. And here I go, and I create my class.
Okay.
So it's taking a bit of time, and what I would do is probably, and there you go. Once you've actually created your class, the next thing you want to do is you would like to invite your students. But before we get to that, I'll just explain a couple of things. If you want, you could upload your own picture, photograph to reflect the nature of your classroom, if that's what you want to do. But there are a couple of things that's very important when we come to Google Class. Three main things. You've got the stream, classwork, and people. Now with stream, which we're on now, you could use stream to kind of have a discussion with your class. You could make some announcements. You could probably have a quick, you could give them a notice on this class. So for this particular class, let's say I just want to say to them, 10G, I'm not a good typist, so you can see that. So this is a message, and this message, once I send it through, I'm going to have to move you so that I can. Now, what I could do here is I could post this message immediately if it needs to go immediately, or I could actually schedule this to actually go later. So because it's the weekend and I want them to see this maybe first thing on Monday, I would actually put a Monday's date, which is the 6th. I want them to see it first thing in the morning, and I'll schedule it for that time. And what would happen is it wouldn't show them. Sorry.
Can we please mute our phones, please? Can we please mute our phones? Please.
Okay.
Can all participants please mute their phones? It is very important so we can all hear what is being said. Please keep an eye on the fact that you're muted or muted, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So you could do that, and that way you could communicate with your class. However, at the moment now, that is now what do you do if you actually want to set an assignment? Now, can I just say, unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to share my existing classes with my school for security purposes. So unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to do that. So I'm going to have to create a make-do class here. But I have already got one. As you can see in the corner here, I've got one here that I created. And this one here, as you could see, what I did was I actually set some work for this particular student here. But before I go into this, I think the next thing you would like to see is how do you actually invite students. So you go into people. It's here that you could, thank you. It is here that you could actually invite your students, and my student at the moment now is my son. So what I did was I actually invited him. And how do you do that? You actually click on the plus sign here. And what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to invite somebody else. So I'm going to try to invite someone else. Let's see. So I'm going to invite someone else here. And what will happen is she has now become a student. Now, can I just explain something? If you have a class of 30 students or more, this is tedious for you to invite each student one by one. So the best thing to do is actually share the class code. Now here you are, every class you make or you create would have a class code. And the best for me, the easiest way to go about it is basically share the class code with all the students in the classroom and get them to join. That way you wouldn't find yourself having to log every student onto the class, because that could be a bit, time consuming. So what do I want to do now? Now I want to show you how I would set classwork. Any questions so far?
We'll take questions when we're done, because if we take questions in between, it might just delay. So when you're done, we'll see what questions they have.
Okay, all right. So you go into classwork, and what's happened here is obviously I already have one set up. So I'm going to now create another piece of work for this for my students. And I could set an assignment, a quiz, a question, or I can even reuse a previous post, but I'm going to actually set up an assignment. I'll give my assignment some kind of title, so I could call it sorry.
That's okay.